I hate Gates of Obscura. Get rid of Gates. List of Gates of Obscura's redeeming qualities that make up for its flaws. Maybe skill issue, but I really don't like Gates of Obscura. I'd play 100 inky games before even considering a single Gates of Obscura game. Gates of Obscura makes me want to banish myself. I've changed my mind, I hate Gates of Obscura now. Gates of Obscura 3 times in a row. Not gonna lie, that map makes me want to uninstall. Hate that map. Bring back Demon. Gates of Obscura is so fun.
Well, I'm glad to see at least someone likes the map. Long time no see, Strikers. Love and Drunk here, finally back with some educational Omega Strikers content. I've been wanting to talk about maps for a while now, so here we are going to be talking about the new-ish map, Gates of Obscura. I peaked High Challenger in Season 1 playing mostly Imi and Finny. This guide was inspired by a discussion I had with Evil Drew Danger, who went on to write his own mini guide on how to play the map. Evil Drew Danger is an NASL goalie who at one point was number 1 in the world and ended Season 1 in the top 5 in North America. Link to his Twitch stream as well as the guide can be found in the description below. One last final note before we get into the video. The clips you are going to see were taken from my stream, link in the description. The names of the players are visible. Anything I say about the players in this video is to help educate the community and not to flame them. That being said, do not seek out and harass the players that you will see in these clips. Gates of Obscura is not a popular map, and there are a lot of strong opinions related to this map. In this video, we are going to be ignoring that and just discussing these 4 key things. Map features, how to properly use the portals, how to set up a good offensive position, and how to deny offense. Before we get into the detail of how to play this map, we need to first make sure that we understand the map. There are 2 key features to this map. The first of which is the portals, and the second of which is the lock formation. Portals. At the start of every round there are 4 possible portal arrangements, with 2 distinct types of portals, side and bumper portals. Whenever the core enters a portal, it comes out of the same colored portal, maintaining its speed and direction. A striker can also move through the portals just like the core. Another thing to understand about the portals is that if a creation would block the spawning of the core through the portal, then it just spits it right back out. Locks. The locks on this map are 2 really close together rectangles that are in the middle of the goalie box. These rectangles are also longer than they are wide, which is going to force goalies to play a little bit farther forward. Given how easy it is to trap the core in the corner and attack these locks from the sides, and how hard it is to clear it out to the middle, this is going to encourage goalies to prevent the core from ever getting into the corners in the first place. Another thing to note is that a good shot can get both of the barriers at the same time, just like on Night Market. Portal usage. Now with a basic understanding of the map, let's talk about how positioning is warped on this map because of the addition of the portals. The first thing to understand about the portals is that they are mostly a defensive tool. To explain why the portals are a defensive tool, let's look at some scenarios. So this here is a prime example of why we don't attack into the portal side on offense. Here you're going to see that the offense has a really powerful play with, of course, your favorite Lovin being off the map. So this is a normally really hard situation for a goalie to deal with, but in this case, the Asher here has an out. Asher can just hit it into this barrier and clear to the other side of the map. So one thing to think about when you're doing this is where do you want to hit this, right? So the Asher here is just going to hit into the portal. It's like early day 1. Nobody's thinking about this type of thing. But what we should be doing is we should be hitting it into the corner of this portal at as steep of an angle as we can. So if you can take it even further back here and do the same thing, you're going to get a much better angle because you might even be threatening this barrier. Now obviously the Kai who's right here, you can't see it because I'm hitting tab in game, is going to be able to save that, but that's not a problem. The point here is that you're buying time. So looking at this clip, I'm going to point out a really bad dribble, and this type of dribble that accidentally gets hit into the portals when you're trying to do something like this. It's accidentally going to go this way. So when you're doing this type of thing, you need to either keep your dribbles tighter and make sure you aren't hitting that portal, or more importantly, you need to see that the correct hit path is up this way. As you watch this clip, notice how easy the clears are for both of the goalies because the core is getting hit into the corners with the portals. And I want you to pay attention to how that is making it difficult for either of the offenses to really get anything going because the core is constantly changing sides and everyone's shuffling and trying to reposition to those core positions. Do note that this is probably day 1 or 2 of Gates of Obscura, so everybody's kind of unfamiliar with the map. So there's a lot of jankiness to this that you just saw. This isn't related to any game footage I have, but I wanted to show how you can make sure you're using the bumpers portals effectively. So if you have a core here, we can note that the angle that we can hit the core through is anything from this to this, right? Now when you hit it on this far left side, what you're doing is you're sending it out here. And when you hit it on this far right side, what you're doing is you're setting out here. So you notice that the angle, right, is really big as we get through. One of the most common angles is going to be this one here at the barrier. One, however, that I think is really important to remember is this one, because if you have a forward who's standing at about midfield, this is going to set them up really nicely to then push the core to the other side and get that offensive attack away from the portal. Because if we keep pushing into the portal, you're going to have to be defending a lot. So this is a really good clear to be thinking about this line right here, making sure you're getting it up and out. Do note that this line changes, of course, based on where you're clearing from. So when you're clearing from here, if you want to hit this line, you need to make sure that you're getting it into here, as that's going to push it out about here. So just, you got to think about the relation to where you are, to where you want the core to go. It is a little confusing and takes a little bit of practice to get used to. But it's not that hard when you get to slow down and examine it outside of game like we are doing right now. In the examples shown, you will have noticed that some of the defensive portal usage sets up strong offensive attacks. This is what I want you to take away as we move into the next section. Setting up a good offense. All maps can be broken up into 4 quadrants. On this map in particular, this is a good way of understanding our offensive goals. Splitting the map vertically, you have your sides and your opponent's side. Then cutting the map in horizontally, you will have cut this into 4 quadrants. 2 of those quadrants will have portals on them. When setting up our offense, we want to be pushing the core into the enemy quadrant that is without a portal. This is to give the defense less options for how to clear the core. Then we want to constrict the clearing lanes for the enemy goalie. Finally, our last goal is to ensure that the enemy team has a hard time clearing it out to the other side of the map. Their offensive goals will be similar to ours, so if we concede a clear option, it'll be the one that leads to our portal side quadrant. The following clips are going to elaborate these concepts. This here is an example of how you set up a really good offensive structure. Do note that we got here from a bad defensive structure. But as both Imi and I are pushing up here, the Imi should play a little bit lower probably, but this is good enough. Notice that there's going to be nowhere for this Kai to hit the core. On top of that, I'm about to drop a Tofu Fortress, which is going to make his job actually impossible, and he's going to have nowhere to clear here. So, as we take the barrier, one thing I want to notice is how our offensive structure is going to crumble here, because there's going to be a clear route out through this, but the Imi is not taking up the space where the clear could go. So the Imi needs to keep playing right about here, as I'm going to go in, get possession of the core with my roll, and send it up. This makes the only clear route available right to that circle that I just placed, and if my Imi hadn't instinctively just spread out and gone all the way up to the top of the map, then we would have had a barrier here. We would have got both the barriers here. So this is something that's going to take some getting used to, because on this map, it plays kind of like a Demon Dais. You need to play a lot closer in these spaces, because there was no clear route here, and my Imi was effectively not doing anything in this scenario because of a slight mispositioning error. So in this clip, we're going to talk about the offensive structure here and why it's subpar, and why they are unable to get 2 barriers here in a man-up situation. They do end up getting 1, but they should be getting 2 here. So the big thing is, if we look at how spread out we are, this is already not what we need to be doing on this map, since our objective is to generally shove it into this area here, right? So if that's our goal, and our goal is to shove it into that area, we need to play closer. this Kazan needs to come down while the Estelle pushes in, and then the Kai can either come and assist here or just come straight behind and assist. Either way, the goal is to keep pushing this in. So as the clip plays out, you're going to notice that the Kazan is going to stay up and expecting a pass, which is never coming, because you don't want to reset it up here. You might get a barrier if you do this, but then you have the clear potential here. You really open up the map and you don't want to do that. So the Kazan is going to recognize this and does eventually move down. But notice where they move down to, and notice how that leaves a clear available. Now I will state that the Kai, if we just go back a couple seconds here, the Kai is also not contributing, right? Because the Kai has no reason that they shouldn't be playing up at least here. And if the Kai is standing here, the Kai can push this back in and keep feeding the play. Instead, the Kai is back here worried about I don't know what, because it's not like it's going to be coming through this portal, so there's no threat here. So this is a offensively structured map, and you need to play into it. You need to keep the core now in this space here. And in order to do that, as the Kai, you really need to play forward here, especially in these man-up situations. This team should have easily got both of the barriers here, but instead Luna is able to clear it out and give us some time to get me back up and cooking. What I'm about to show you is an example of a really good offensive structure. The only problem with this is that I'm positioned a little too high. I need to be playing about here, a little bit lower, and let the Asher and the Kazan push it up this way, and my job is just to prevent this clear out. Force the enemy team to constantly try to clear it through 2 players, which isn't going to pan out. I also want to show how the Asher is being properly aggressive here, because if we keep putting it in this space and I do my job, there is no offensive threat on our goal, as neither of these two have core flip or really a strong way to push it through. So this is just a really good example of a solid offensive attack here. Another key element to this map and why creation characters are so powerful is, of course, how strikers like Rune interact with the bumper portals. If Rune places a pillar on the portal, it will instantly reject the core in the direction it came from. This can make clearing as the enemy goalie very difficult in that portal quadrant. You cannot use the bumper like you are used to, and you're essentially being pressured by 3 players. What this does to a team is it makes it so that the team with the weaker creation goalie can only effectively play in one quadrant of the map. For the team with the better creation goalie, it opens up back passes to your goalie that are difficult to interrupt and easily set up an offense. Denying the offense. The best way to prevent offenses from getting online in this map is understanding which quadrant provides the most leverage to them. Then we are going to try to take away the opportunities for them to get into that quadrant. As such, I find goalies that can be more proactive in disrupting the enemy's core control are going to be more likely to find success. This map is going to reward more aggressive goalie play so long as it is done properly. If your team is pushing up on the correct side of the map, the goalie is able to play a bit more forward, which is because of how restrictive the barrier can be on the other goalie's clears. That being said, this aggression can also be easily punished if it's done poorly. For goalies, learning how and when to be aggressive is going to be a very difficult part of learning this map. So right here I wanted to talk about defensive structure, and I want you to take a look at our team with the Asher, myself, and this Luna here. So I'm going to make a cross pass right here through to the Luna. And the trick to this is that if we look at the offensive structure, we can see that if Estelle has an ability, she can interrupt this, and if the Kai has an ability, they can both interrupt this here, which makes this pass really difficult. There is nothing probably better to do with this, as I can't get it into the portal here, probably. So this is the play I have to make. So when we're looking at a defensive structure, what we really want to see is we want to see this person playing more up here. Right? So we want to be playing more like this, and we need to play tighter, because if Asher gets it, she can't really clear it out this way for the same reason that I can't. And in general, Asher isn't going to be able to clear it out this way because there's a Kazan on her. But Asher can push it up to me, I can push it down, right? And that will allow us to get it out up here where we can then work with it. Again, we don't want to be pushing it down this way. So that'll allow us to get it out into the top. So the defensive structure on this map when we get into the corners needs to be very tight-knit. You need to form a really small, tight triangle where you need to be aware of the goalie barriers because your goalie can't clear through them. So like where the Luna is, this clear is really difficult to make even if there isn't a Kazan there. It's not that difficult if there's not a Kazan there, but the pressure these two are applying make for really good pokes into the barrier. And this is the type of thing you're going to see a lot from the offenses on this map. As this clip runs, we're going to see a good offensive structure with me taking the lead and getting this in here and pushing it up. Right here, Atlas core flips, and the immediate response from both of my teammates is to move towards the top side. Ivy and Atlas are going to occupy this space. Why? Because of the thing we've been talking about in relation to quadrants. If we cut this map into quadrants, the quadrant that the enemy should be wanting to attack to is this one. The quadrant that they don't want to attack to is this one. So, by letting them push it into this quadrant, by playing a little bit higher up and taking away the access to this top quadrant, we are going to be able to deny their offense. Imi is able to completely stymie their offense here and take another barrier as this clip continues. Some last final notes before we wrap up the video. The first thing I want you to take away is that you're not going to get too overwhelmed by the portals. They add an element to the map, but when you play the map well, the portals don't get used too much. This map is about knowing where to set up your offense, and then using the portals to get there as needed. Keeping track of how the portals are set up and the different passing options that come out of that can be hard. However, if you keep the core in the proper quadrant offensively, you will find that the portals become much easier to play around for your entire team. If you find yourself wanting to walk through the portals yourself, just keep in mind that most of the time that's bad. Often you will end up being out of position and unhelpful to your team. So think carefully about when you should walk through them. If it isn't obviously good to walk through a portal, then it's probably bad. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this video to be educational. A lot of what was said in this video is stuff that has been discussed in the Omega Strikers coaching Discord. So, if you want to join that coaching Discord, there will be a link to that in the description below. Also, you can receive free coaching. That's pretty cool, from like the highest and bestest players. Some of these players that you may watch in NASL games are there. It's pretty rad. And also, if you want to like hang out and talk to me, sometimes I stream on twitch.tv/loveanddrunk. It's a place where we hang out and talk. I've been playing a lot of Dubu Forward recently, so if you're into that, that's the type of content you're getting right now. And I work out between games, which there's not much to see, but it's making me jacked. So if you're interested in that, links in the description.